guys, I'm QXC, retired StarCraft 2 pro gamer, and today I'm going to be giving you tips on how to rank up in Clash Royale free-to-play as efficiently as possible. So the first thing to note is the higher your arena in Clash Royale, the more cards you'll be getting per chest. That means the earlier you can get to higher arenas, the faster your overall collection will be growing. In addition, there are 3 arenas at which the amount of cards you can donate and request from your clan are increased. That is Arena 4, Arena 7, and Arena 8. Arena 4 is your first major milestone, and as soon as you make a new account, this is where you should be trying to hit as quickly as possible. So early on, even if your chest area is full, you cannot receive additional chests, it's good to grind up and see how far you can push your trophies. Your trophy count will be limited by your cards. At some point, you will no longer be able to win because your opponent's cards will simply be better than yours. At this point, you may consider opening some chests with gems. Opening chests with gems will be more efficient the higher your arena, so it's kind of, whether it's worth it or not, it's hard to say. But if you're very close to hitting Arena 4, then it may be worth using some gems to open some chests, level up 1 or 2 cards, hit Arena 4, and sit in there. You'll be spending a lot of time in Arena 4. It's going to take a decent amount of time to rank up past that. But getting to Arena 4 early on makes a huge difference for you to be able to build your collection. In Clash Royale, there's a sort of weighted probability to the cards that you get from chests. That means that the cards that you have fewer of, doesn't matter if you've leveled them up or not, it's just the overall amount of cards of that type in your collection, the more likely you are to get it. So in order to actually build up a deck and have 1 or 2 really strong cards, really the only way to do that is by requesting, which means that you should be requesting basically the same card every time. The exception here is that you're going to want to request and buy cards that are very close to leveling up that you actually want to use in your deck. And I'll talk a little bit more about deck construction later on in this video. So what card should you request? Well, Giant. Giant is really a solid pick for new players. It does a lot, and it doesn't have a lot of nuance in terms of its use compared to some other cards. In addition, because when you level up a card, it gets a percentage increase to its base stats, and Giant has tremendously large base hit points and damage output. Leveling up Giant will make a big, big difference in terms of your overall quality of deck. As far as the cards you want to donate, you pretty much want to donate everything except for Giant, if that's the card you're requesting, or any cards that are very close to the threshold of leveling up again. So if you just need a few more Wizards and you're using Wizard, don't donate them. Otherwise, you want to donate everything, because gold and experience are going to be your limiting factor as you keep leveling up. In addition, at the shop each day, every 24 hours, there will be new cards available for you to buy.
And regardless of whether or not you actually want the card or think you're going to use it, you do want to buy about 3 commons and 3 of each rare. And the reason for that, again, is because you tend to get more cards of the things you have fewest of, regardless of their level. Which means if you can fill up your collection a little bit, fill in some of the cards that you don't have a lot of, then you'll tend to get more of the cards that you do want. There's an important thing to note here, though, that if you're close to leveling up a card, and especially if you're close to ranking up to an important arena, then you're going to want to spend more gold and buy a few more cards. So, for example, if my Wizard or my Giant are 5 or 6 cards away from being leveled up, I won't hesitate to buy those extra cards, even if it costs me a little bit more, because getting to that higher arena sooner makes a big difference in the overall growth rate of my collection.
Now, let's actually talk about building your deck. So how do you decide what cards to use? The first thing is you almost always want to use all of your highest level cards. So remember, a level 1 legendary is equivalent to a level 9 common, a level 1 epic to a level 5 common, and a level 1 rare to a level 3 common. What this means is early on, you basically want to use the most rare cards you have. Epics and rares are just going to be better than commons because commons aren't going to be that high level when you start out. Later on, as you open the various magical and giant chests that appear in your cycle, you may get a whole bunch of a specific rare or epic card, and that suddenly becomes your highest level card, and that is probably a good reason to build a deck around that card. It's just important to note this ratio between the different cards and what a level 1 epic really means when you compare it to a common or a rare. There are a few exceptions here of cards that you probably don't want to include really at all for a long time. So these cards include Tombstone, Lightning, Rocket, and any defensive building. These cards are not bad, but they don't have much of a place in the lower arenas. In terms of actually building the deck itself and you're deciding which cards specifically to put in it, one of the good guidelines is don't use more than 2 cards that do the same thing. And when I say the same thing, I mean think about what that card excels at. Every card in Clash Royale is very good at one specific thing, at least. So for example, Bomber, Wizard, Valkyrie. These cards all have in common the fact that they deal splash damage. Including all 3 of them in your deck will create an imbalanced deck. And I don't mean imbalance as overpowered, I mean imbalance as in bad. The problem with that sort of deck is you'll have a lot of trouble actually killing single target, single units with large amounts of hit points like Giant. The key to winning in Clash Royale is to make elixir efficient trades. So basically what that means is if your opponent were to play 5 elixir worth of units and you can stop that push or even do a counter push with less than that amount, you end up net gaining elixir. The way to actually have those elixir efficient trades happen is to have the right tool for the right job. And the way to do that is to build a balanced deck where you don't have too many units that fulfill any given role. Final tip for building your deck is you're going to want to include one spell that is either arrows, fireball, or poison. These spells all have the kind of a sufficient threshold of damage to deal with most of the threats that you'll see in the lower arenas, and they're very versatile, they're very useful, they'll save you from a lot of pinch situations. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed these tips, and using these tips, I was able to get to Arena 7 free to play in just 2 weeks. Let me know how it goes when you use them. Leave some comments, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.